In the wake of the leaked surveillance video from Robb Elementary in Uvalde, I spoke with State Senator Roland Gutierrez over Zoom. He represents Uvalde in Austin. I started out by asking him about his initial reaction to the leak.
Disturbing on a lot of levels. First off, every family, I've talked to many already that are very disturbed that this was distributed to the media before they had a chance to view it in a more sensitive manner as they were promised. That didn't happen. Someone in government failed. I found out that 8 senators or state representatives, don't know which, were given this video pursuant to some non-disclosure agreement. It's a concern to me that either one of those people or somebody on this committee or someone in the governor's office or a DPS did this in a manner that was contrary to what they promised these families. As to the video itself, it's what we've all envisioned, a chaotic scene of police officers from many, many different law enforcement agencies doing a whole lot of nothing, not going into the room. That was clear. And so it's very, very disturbing as you watch them try to figure out what needs to happen. But the policy manual tells you what needs to happen. You go in. That didn't happen here on May 24th.
I know that you have been at the forefront of demanding that these videos be made public to the families, to Uvalde, eventually to us. Obviously, in this case, it didn't happen necessarily in that order, but it is out. And what we see in some of it is, and I got to see, obviously, the video, there's one officer sanitizing his hands, you know, with the little sanitizer pump on the wall, another one checking his phone. What is that indicative of?
Well, you see the guy you see kind of a made for TV moment here, because this video is a combination of hallway video and body cam from the guy in the shorts. And he is a game warden. And so he's obviously he's got a schematic, I think, in his hand, and he's trying to figure out what's what. You see a DPS trooper kind of, barking out orders to different people, or at least talking to different people in a lot of those scenes. And so it's hard to imagine here that anybody was in charge. It seems to be that everybody wanted to be in charge, but that nobody took any kind of real direction. We know from McCraw's own testimony that none of his officers listened to Mr. Arredondo. So clearly they weren't giving any indication of what happened on that day.
I visited Uvalde a couple of times now and spoken to family members. And one of the things that they keep asking for when I ask them, what do you all need? What do you all want? Is this transparency. They want the videos. They want answers. They want, their questions, all the questions that they have to officials down there in Uvalde to be answered. Does this video get us any closer to sort of that relief that they're looking for? I don't even want to call it closure, because they all told me there's no way you get closure for something like this. So I want to be careful not to really use that word. But do you think this release gets them any sort of closer to what they want?
Well, I can tell you this. I didn't sign a non-disclosure agreement, so therefore I haven't seen this. I did see 3 minutes in the trailer of the first 7 officers go in there. And it's from a fisheye camera in a hallway. And that fisheye camera is not evidenced in this video. And that's important to know for this reason. You see the officers go in and get repelled by gunfire. And you see shards of sheetrock and glass flying over their head. That should scare all of us, because that is the awesome and fearful and dreaded power of an AR-15. And that's why all of those officers were outside of that hallway, because they were so afraid. Imagine what those children felt as they lay there inside, as this guy randomly fired at them, because he continued to fire sporadically throughout that piece. And so you had all of these officers in presumed fear or whatnot, hesitancy, whatever you want to call it. The fact is, they didn't follow their own protocols because they knew what they were facing in firepower. It's shameful what happened on May 24th. And what's most shameful, and I know that these officers will have to live with this for the rest of their lives, is that they stood outside of a hallway determining what else they needed to get done or what other kind of equipment they needed, when what they needed was enough bravery to go into that room immediately as their training dictated. And what's even more shameful is that we have a DPS director that blamed it on a guy, said he was in charge. Nothing I see in that video indicates that Pete Arredondo or anybody was in charge. And that is what's most disconcerting to me.
Sounds like you're saying this is not necessarily an issue of training, but rather bravery. They knew what they had to do. They just didn't do it.
The kids were brave. They were brave. Not so much on the law enforcement side.
What sort of ripple effect has this video now had with your constituents and folks that you're talking to? And you said you just got back from Washington. I wonder what kind of conversations you had over there.
Family members were very devastated that it was released in a manner contrary to what they were told. They feel like they've been lied to. They feel like they just can't trust anybody. They've been put in a spot where they're just dealing in an emotional roller coaster that doesn't seem to stop. Mm-hmm. And they just want the truth as to what happened. I filed a lawsuit against DPS. It's my hope that as we go through that legal proceeding, we'll be able to get all of the cameras, all of the body cams, and go through it all, and probably end up having to give it to some expert agency to compile it and put it in the right way. What we got here was just nonsense.
That was actually going to be my next question. So we got some of it. What else do you want to see? What else are you pushing for?
We see a made-for-TV video that's edited, that has got a camera portion to it, one body cam. There's 360 officers on the scene. There was 19 in that hallway. There was different, there was different angles from the school. We need to be able to see that information in its totality without editing. We don't even have the fisheye that clearly shows 7 officers go in and get repelled. That's not on those 77 minutes. You see one angle of it from a different camera far beyond. I saw those 3 minutes in the first week because I went into a trailer to argue with DPS about an issue. As I left that room, I saw about 9 Rangers rather, watching this video. And I saw the horroring power of that weaponry.
I know the governor had asked for this video. He was saying that he wanted transparency as well, and he pushed for the full video to be released. Do you think that this is, or the edited version of what we saw was just enough to sort of quell that for now?
The governor wants to placate a bunch of people, and he wants us all to, stay quiet. The fact is, people want change, and they want change where it's appropriate. They want to stop having 18-year-olds have access to this type of weaponry. And we're 35 days away from school starting, and he refuses to do that. So he thinks that he's going to quell us with a little bit of information. Quite frankly, none of us have seen the most harrowing part. And I'm not asking to see children lying in a classroom. Everybody should see those 7 kids as they walk out. Those 7 officers as they're repelled by gunfire, and that gunfire is just throwing out construction material at them.
Do you think we'll ever get to see that?
I'm demanding that we see it. I filed a lawsuit so that people can see it, and I'll be very respectful of those families. I promise you that. What's happened here is an abomination by government. We deserve better from government. We deserve better from this office. We deserve better from the Department of Public Safety and Greg Abbott's Operation Lone Star, all of whose members were in that community, were in that school. We deserve better.